In today's book review, we will focus on the novel 2312, written by Kim Stanley Robinson. It is a standalone novel set in its own fictional universe. However, it is heavily influenced by and shares a lot of elements with the Mars Trilogy, which itself consists of the novels Red Mars, Green Mars, and Blue Mars. Watch the linked videos if you are interested to see my book reviews on those. It might make sense for prospective readers of 2312 to give the trilogy a shot first, as the trilogy goes into more depth with regards to some specific technological, societal and economic developments that are also featured in 2312, but are only mentioned shortly rather than thoroughly explained. The novel 2312 was published in the year 2012 and is roughly 670 pages long, depending on which release you focus on. As the title implies, the story is set at the beginning of the 24th century. Humanity has spread throughout the solar system. Mars has been fully terraformed. The bigger moons of the gas giants are also undergoing terraformation, or at least have human settlements on them. And on Mercury, the city of Terminator slowly moves around the planet on a massive rail system, perpetually fleeing from the scorching heat of Mercury's day side. While Mars is independent and removed from interplanetary affairs, the city Terminator on Mercury, the Jovian League and the Saturnian League, together with several other free-floating habitats, form the Mondragon Accord, an inter-settlement alliance. Earth is still the heart of the human civilization with 11 billion inhabitants, but it struggles with economic inequality, poverty, bureaucratic institutions, and environmental disasters caused by centuries of exploitation. A balance between these different powers has to be found. Also, advances in biotechnology have led to lifespan extension and countless body modifications, allowing humans to adapt to their different habitats or to adopt multiple types of gender. Further technological improvements have led to the creation of quantum computers, allowing to simulate and solve problems that were yet deemed unsolvable. The story begins with the death of the high-ranking official Alex on Mercury, which might not have been due to natural causes. Her granddaughter, Swan Erhong, together with several of Alex's associates from all corners of the solar system, start to investigate her death. Throughout the story, Swan, together with others, has to travel to most of the major human settlements to finally uncover the truth that will change the fate of humanity. Similar to the Mars Trilogy, 2312 leans on the harder side of the science fiction Mohs scale. However, since it is set relatively far in the future, there are certain aspects of the story that are quite speculative from a scientific perspective. However, the gender variations seem to be grounded in biology rather than social constructs. But once more, the pace of terraformation, of Mars for instance, and other planets seems to be optimistically fast. In terms of the scope of the world, 2312 easily compares to Blue Mars. It could even be argued that 2312 is its spiritual successor. We experience numerous places around the solar system, from the volcanoids, which orbit the Sun closer than even the planet Mercury, out to the icy giants, and everything in between. One drawback of this approach is that all of these settlements and habitats cannot be explored in too much details, as it just would not fit in a single novel. Nevertheless, the world building is one of the strong points of 2312. In terms of originality, 2312 is not groundbreaking, as many of the most interesting aspects of this colonized solar system have been depicted in one form or another in previous books or stories. Some ideas are quite unique though, as the city of Terminator, to name one example. The roster of characters in 2312 is quite condensed, especially if you compare it to the Mars Trilogy. There are about 10 main characters, with only 4 point-of-view characters, and of those 4 point-of-view characters we experience most of the story through the lens of Swan. Considering the fact that 2312 is a standalone novel, it makes sense to keep the list of characters focused and concise. In terms of awards, 2312 was peppered with nominations, which include the BSFA, Clark, Hugo, Campbell, and Locus Awards. However, it only won the Nebula Award in 2012. As of the making of this video, the wider public rated 2312 at 3.50 and 3.39 stars on Goodreads and Library Thing. On Amazon it scores 3.8 stars. Let us be honest, these ratings are not flattering and they are not just based on a couple of angry reviewers. 2312 has a lot going for it. The setting, the world building, and some of the unique ideas alone should be an excellent canvas to tell a captivating story. However, there are two main points that sabotage 2312. They are frequently mentioned in most critical reviews, and I tend to agree with them. First, there is the pacing of the story, which is a big problem. There are some chapters that are indeed written in a gripping fashion, but then they are followed by long-winded, meandering chapters. To a lesser extent, these issues also existed in the Mars Trilogy, but they are worse in 2312, as the reader can easily lose focus. It is sometimes really difficult to remember the main plotline after reading dozens of pages related to completely different content. It does not help that 2312's main plot itself, in comparison to the Mars Trilogy for instance, is already quite convoluted and that there are frequent jumps in location and time. The second, and in my view worst, drawback of 2312 are the main characters. Unfortunately, in general, science fiction is a genre that is not often blessed with exceptional characters. It rather lives from original and unique ideas, which raise interesting questions that are presented through the lens of storytelling. As mentioned earlier, 2312 has potential here. However, its story is mostly told through some of the most annoying characters that I have ever experienced. Swan might nominally be over 130 years old, but frequently acts like a petulant 130-month-old. That would be roughly 11 years. Combined with the pacing issues, the chapters with Swan sometimes feel like the description of an airheaded, mercurial teenager gallivanting through the solar system to quote-unquote find herself. In a way, she reminded me of Zoe from Blue Mars, who was often negatively described by the other point-of-view characters in the same book. At least in Blue Mars it made sense to have such a character in the book as well. Fitzwarren, a 113-year-old diplomat from Titan, is the point-of-view character with the second largest page count. In short, he is extremely boring. And to add insult to injury, he is being described in the book as quote-unquote looking like a toad. Both Swan and Fitz eventually start to bond over their experiences together, even though they both have a similar rich chemistry together like helium and gold. And this relationship is not just a side story that went awry, it constitutes long stretches of the main plot. The only character that did seem interesting was Kiran, a migrant from India working on the terraformation of Venus. Unfortunately, he was only the point-of-view character in a few chapters. Overall, if 2312 had had main characters that could at least be summarized as being meh, it really could have been an interesting read. Yet, what we got in terms of characters can only be summarized as being... It is frustrating that everything the novel has going for it is more than dragged down by inconsistent pacing and the mess that are the main characters. But by all means, if you can ignore the pacing issues and the unlikable characters, which tends to be a subjective judgment from my part in the first place, then 2312 can be something for you. And to be honest, there are dozens of reviewers who think that it is a good book. Maybe you can be one of them. If you like this video, please consider voting and subscribing to this channel. It is much appreciated. And if you have any further insights you want to share, if you have suggestions for other material for me to review, or if you want to express your own opinion, feel free to leave a comment. Thanks for watching and until next time.